Sadiq Khan wants to give free public transport on buses to asylum seekers, fake refugees, people from Albania who shouldn't be in the country anyway, despite the amount of money that they are costing the taxpayer. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but also hit the bell notification icon. It's the only way to absolutely guarantee you get all my videos as soon as they are released. Well. Sadiq Khan, I believe, is the enemy of freedom. He's somebody who hates the United Kingdom, not the territory, but the way the United Kingdom has been in the past, and wants to change it beyond belief. I believe that he's pushing people out of London and putting them into the home counties instead, where they have to pay for his reign, but they don't get to vote for it. By the way, lots of Americans or whatever say, how on earth can people from London vote for him? Look, I work in London, but I do not live in London anymore. I live in Ascot, just outside. And there are lots of people who've moved to Buckinghamshire, Berkshire, Hampshire, Essex, Kent, all of these places. We saw last week Sadiq Khan support the distribution of leaflets which tell parents that they should give their white children a Monopoly game in which they get more money every time they pass go, get a house before they even start, and anytime they pick the go to jail, they don't have to go. That is in order to teach them about white privilege. What a racist pile of claptrap that is. We've also seen the enormous cost associated with fake asylum seekers sailing into the United Kingdom. We've seen, by the way that Nigel Farage attempted to film them coming over on the small boats, and in fact the police attempt to arrest him for being out and about during coronavirus, which of course going on a boat on your own was not a breach of the lockdown. It's one of your exercises that you're able to do every single day. Well, I am stunned that we allow people to come into the United Kingdom from Albania, and yet Spriza, which is a charity, Albanian-speaking charity for Albanian asylum seekers and refugees, they have said that they want free bus travel in London for Albanian refugees. Now, I want to give you a couple of details. First of all, just to explain to you, the average cost of accommodating an asylum seeker or refugee is £40,000 a year, £40,000 a year. We have people really living quite close to me who are living in absolute poverty. There's the example of the Manor Hotel in Datchet, which was virtually bankrupted by the coronavirus lockdown, and the only way that the Gill brothers could keep the hotel going was to rent it out to asylum seekers and refugees, and they were very disappointed by that. But of course, what it meant was there will no longer be the events there. The little wedding shop across the road, I'm sure, will have to close. And so this level of refugees is a really bad thing. But I've got a friend of mine who told me the other day that his nightclub, which went bust, has now been turned into refugee accommodation. And he said every single Albanian who checks in immediately leaves. Why is that? It's because they've already got somewhere to go. Albanian drug gangs are revolutionising the cocaine industry in London, and it is not benefiting the country. Ever wondered why there are so many Turkish barbers on every single street and more blokes getting their haircuts? No, not at all. They dump money from the drugs trade into the tills. Sadiq Khan, his representative, Seb Dance, he's an old friend of mine, by the way. I knew him from Manchester University. Seb Dance has met with Spriza and has said that he wants London to be open to everyone. Now, I understand that refugees and asylum seekers, some of them only get as much as £8.87 a week. But you are talking about Albania. It's in NATO. It's probably going to join the EU. This is a country where there is no war. And by the way, there was a war next door in Kosovo, and we invaded on behalf of the Kosovans in order to support, defend and protect them. I think the reason that Sadiq Khan wants to do this is to further crush the indigenous population in London and to replace them with new people who he believes are much more likely to pay for him, much more likely to support him, even though we have to pay for him. And look at the situation with London Transport, this Transport for London thing, which has been a disaster for ordinary people. I leave Talk at 1 in the morning. I get home here about 2 in the morning. There's no traffic around, and yet there are traffic jams. And you think, Andre, what are you talking about? What Sadiq Khan has done with this ULEZ and congestion charge and reducing the capacity of the streets and the 20-mile-an-hour zones, it leaves you in a situation where even at 2 in the morning in London, there are traffic jams, and that is causing congestion and doing significant harm to ordinary children and young people walking to schools because of the amount of fumes that are flying round. And so let's talk to ourselves about buses in general. Well, let me say this. Keir Starmer has raised the cap on bus fares from £2 to £3. Now, that doesn't sound a lot, it's only £1. But imagine you're a family of 5, depending on the ages of the children. That means that you're paying an extra £10 a day. If you go to work 5 days a week, that's an extra £50 a week. If you then decide to go shopping on a Saturday and to church on a Sunday, then maybe that's £70 a week, £3,500 a year. Pay the tax on it, it's £5,000 a year. So at the same time as hard-working taxpayers are struggling, Sadiq Khan is doling out yet more money to people who don't deserve to be in the country, who shouldn't be in the country, who are here for nefarious purposes. Oh, and by the way, I know that you're all going to say to me, or some people will say to me, we can't have a go at Albanians, they're good people. Look, I'm not talking about Albanians. I'm not talking about Somalians. I'm not talking about Eritreans. I'm talking about people who come to Britain illegally. Clearly, there are large numbers of Albanians who get work visas for the United Kingdom. Clearly, there are people who deserve to be here. But why would you come from Albania to the United Kingdom illegally rather than jumping on an EasyJet flight and flying for 40 quid? The reason is very simple. Because you aren't entitled to come to the UK. No skills, serious criminal records, no money, likelihood to abscond and never go back. Those are the reasons that people come. And let me tell you something about real refugees. And I always give the example of little Moldova. It has taken in more refugees than any other country from Ukraine. Right, the reason is Moldova has a population of, I think, about 3 million. It was the poorest country in Europe until Ukraine was invaded. Now Ukraine is the poorest country in Europe, fairly obviously. But they took 350,000 to 400,000 refugees, women and children. Now, I want to tell you this. When I saw the refugees in Ukraine, and when we see those people who go to Moldova, they're not military-aged men, they're women and children. And the reason why Ukrainian refugees went to Moldova, whereas Albanians don't, is because they're real refugees. They come over the border to the nearest safe country, as the UN quite rightly mandates, and then they wait there until they're able to go home. This whole idea of, oh, I'm a bit poor, let's use the Refugee Convention in order to move, is not what Ukrainians are doing. It's what criminal gangs are exploiting. And so if there was a war in the United Kingdom, say, what we would do is we would all go to France, or we would go to the Irish Republic, or we would go to the Isle of Man. You wouldn't say, oh, Tokyo's nice this time of year. So we need to stop the exploitation of the refugee system by people like Sadiq Khan. And I will make one final comment on refugees. Very few Ukrainians came to Britain, but had many of them come, we wouldn't have had the space. Also, when Azerbaijan invaded Nagorno-Karabakh, the Christian area that's kind of Armenian, had there been a genocide, and there wasn't, had there been a genocide against the Christian Armenians by the Muslim Azeris, we would not have had space to take in refugees because all the spaces will have been filled with people who ought not to be in the country. What a disgrace that would have been. Until next time, goodbye.